Hi everyone, my name is Amber.
I'm Jasma, and welcome back to another episode of the Off the Charts podcast. This is the podcast where we talk with experienced artists and hear more about their journey to getting to where they are today.
Yes, and today we have another very, very special guest, Miss Jessie Liang. She's going to talk a lot about her art form, which is acting, playwriting, producing, coaching. She's done it all, and she has had an extensive career. And we get to hear a little bit about how it works in the adult world, how things come together when you have to pay your
Yeah,
bills.
yeah.
It's an interesting
Very
take.
different perspective, so this should be a very, very fun episode to
Mm-hmm.
listen to, hopefully.
Yeah. So before we get started, as always, we love to do a little introduction for you guys. So we're going to do that right now. So Jessie is a Vancouver-based actress, playwright, and acting coach, as we've mentioned, whose love of the arts has led her on an incredibly successful journey as an industry creative. She's attended the acclaimed theater school Studio 58 and has worked in theater, film, TV, commercials, and the voiceover industries. Some of her most notable accomplishments include being the associate resident producer for the award-winning theater company Solo Collective. She was also part of the 2018 production by Pacific Theater and tour of Kim's Convenience, which was actually their highest grossing show of all time and nominated for 6 Jessie Richardson Awards. And speaking of their tour of Kim's Convenience, they are actually doing a Zoom live reading of their play production on March 13th. So make sure that you guys go check that out as well. Show some support to Jessie and her fellow theater actors and all of the people at Pacific Theater. And she's been featured in a multitude of TV shows such as Charmed, Away, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and the Hallmark movie Cross Country Christmas, among many other credits.
And in 2020, Jessie actually founded her own company called Acting Expanded, all focused on helping aspiring and working actors to build their own craft and learn the ins and outs of the industry in an accessible and comfortable way.
So, Jessie, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. Clearly, as our viewers and listeners have seen, you have an incredible resume. You've got a lot of experience in the field. And so we're really excited to kind of nitpick at that and break
Lots
it
to
all
talk
down.
about.
Yes, lots. So, getting right into it, we always kind of start off with how you got into the art forms in film, because you do theater, you do film and TV, and you've done coaching. So how did it all start for you? What drew you to the arts in the first place?
For sure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. I love podcasts, so this is fantastic. Um, okay, so how did I start? I in 2015 is when I applied for theater schools, and because I am not Canadian, I wanted to go to a school that would give me a postgraduate work permit once I was done, but I didn't want to go to another university because I had already gotten a university degree that was not related to the arts at all. Asian family. And so I did all of that. And then because I was still miserable after having like a business degree and all these things, I told my family, hey, I'm going to try to do this thing that is my dream and I've always wanted to. So, in my research, aside from going to a 4 year program, which I really didn't want to do again, and also so expensive for international students, I found 2 theater schools that would give me the postgraduate work permit, which is either Studio 58 at Liang College here in Vancouver or NTS, which is in Quebec. National Theater School.
Yes, yeah.
And I applied for both. I only got into Studio 58, and I was like, great, the decision has been made for me. So I'm just going to go to this school and see what happens. And it's a 3 year long conservatory style school. It was pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. Like, I heard that it would be the most intense, crazy experience of my life. And it really was, if not like just as intense and crazy or more actually, because I had never acted before. So yeah, it was a very long 3 years. And so it was a theater, dedicated to theater program. However, you do get film and TV classes. So you get like an auditioning for TV or working on camera class in your last 3 semesters for a whole year and a half. You're taking classes with Carrie Sandemersky. And they implemented also voice acting classes. So you get 1 semester with Colin Murdoch now, and you get to learn a little bit about the voice industry. Of course, it's not like enough training. If you want to be a voice actor, you probably should do more. But it was good to, just expose yourself to all the different kinds of industries possible. And what I love also about studio is that you're essentially forced. It's kind of like forced labor, but you are supposed to be not just acting in the shows in your first couple of semesters there, you are working in the crews. So you pick up a lot of skills, not just in acting, but you learn, depending on the crews that they put you in, you could learn, set design, like building a set, building costumes, props, lighting, sound, all of that stuff. So you get to see other types of things that you could do in the industry. If you're not, acting, you could still apply for other kinds of jobs, and you can be a full, like, well-rounded artist. And I also learned playwriting there, which is, how I ended up writing my own play. So yeah, you learn like all of these things so that once you're done those 3 years, hopefully you're a working artist and not just starving all the time.
Right.
And yeah, essentially that's what really started it off for me. I had no acting or just like artistic anything before going through studio. So my 3 years there was just like learning everything. And then once I graduated December 2018, I had a little bit more of professional experience in the last couple of years, and I didn't start thinking about teaching or coaching until a couple of years later when I had more experience and I thought that I had more to share. But yeah, what was the question again?
You answered
I just
it.
talked
That's
for
good.
so long.
But that's what you want. That's totally cool.
That was a lot of really insightful information in terms of like the learning process. But I'm curious, I want to kind of just take it back a few steps. Can I ask what you studied before going into arts and theater for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I went to a program in Mississauga at the University of Toronto called Digital Enterprise Management Specialty or specialty. So it's a major essentially that is like management, but just for businesses that exist essentially because of the internet. So you learn everything there is to know about Web 2.0, the cloud, social media types companies, e-businesses, everything that it has to do with post-internet, because the kinds of businesses and organizations that exist after that are completely different from, if you were to work at a manufacturer or something like that has like physical, tangible goods. So I learned a lot about Amazon and Twitter and Hootsuite and all of these different types of programs. Mm-hmm. And then in between that and studio, I eventually did go to VFS just to learn production, because I thought that if I was close enough to the industry but not acting, maybe I would be happy. And so I took the entertainment business management program, which is now sadly defunct at VFS, and now they have a completely different type of program in conjunction with BCIT that you can take now.
Wow. So, you talked about in the beginning that was kind of like the whole we definitely relate to this, like the Asian family, like, yeah, it's not really, saying that you want to be an artist is not usually like the best way to approach your family. So how did you kind of like overcome that criticism, I guess, or if you dealt with any wanting to pursue acting with studio and kind of going into the film industry further?
Yeah, what's really interesting, I think what is, I guess, unique about my experience in my life in particular. My sister, she's a genius, but she always just wanted to be a musician. And so growing up, that was very hard because my parents and her used to fight essentially every day because she wanted to be a musician and they wanted us to do, the typical, you have to be a lawyer or an engineer or
right.
something formal, like a doctor or something like that. And my sister, being the genius that she was like, you know what, I will do this second best thing, which is part of like what I'm interested in. and then I'll just do that. And once I get my degree, you guys can shut up about it. So she got a computer science degree.
Wow.
And then after she finished that, she was like,
Just
okay,
casually.
now I'm going to go be a musician.
That's amazing. I
Which
love
is
that that's what you
insane.
did it.
Yeah. Like for someone to be like, you know what, I'm going to go learn everything there is to know about like physics and math and computer.
And then I'm
to
gonna
think
go
that that's so
Drop
easy.
it.
It's insane. But
Wow.
yeah, and so because of all of that conflict at home, I was always terrified to tell my
Right.
family that I was like just even a little bit interested in acting. So I just didn't even consider it being an option at all until, sadly, when I was in my third year of university, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And from the moment he was diagnosed until his passing, it was only like 2 months. So in the span of 8 weeks, our whole family dynamics changed. Our whole lives changed because he was the healthiest person in our entire family. And for him to just go so quickly was a very kind of like it was just a slap in the face, honestly. And then after that, my whole family was like, well, you know what's really important? Health. And as long as we're happy and healthy, that's kind of like the best that you can do. So when I said eventually that I wasn't happy in what I was doing and I wanted to start acting, I think it was very shocking, but also they just didn't want to say, anything else because, yeah, life is short. So I was like kind of like lucky in that sense that my family didn't put up a fight in that sense, but they were very concerned. Of course, they were very worried about what would be my sister and mine's destiny because
Right.
suddenly these two girls who had gone through like I got a management degree and my sister got a computer science degree, and then we were both like, okay, now we're gonna go be artists. Goodbye.
Like 360, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, are we the black sheep in the family kind of thing? But my sister is very successful now. She's not actively recording music anymore or like doing that kind of stuff because she's working at Sony Image Works. So she works with VFX, like that VFX company.
Oh, wow.
And she has, she's successful in that. And then I'm doing what I'm doing, and my family, I don't think they get it, but they're like, well, she's working, so we're not worried.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's a very different path to take, I guess, in terms of like, going through all those different stages and finally getting to where you are today. I wanted to know if, like, because you said that you didn't really have any sort of a goal to pursue this until you realized it a bit later on in life. Would you have had another plan if, this wasn't something that's pursuable, or if you weren't actually able to get into art school, or this wasn't something that your family wanted to support? What was the plan for you? Because I know a lot of people, especially for our audience, which is mainly like younger people, this may be something they would like want to avoid in terms of like having to change up so much.
Right.
So like, did you have a backup plan? What was like, I don't know, your thought process in terms of making that huge change in terms of your career?
Yeah. I totally hear you on that. I, in a way, didn't have a plan because I was just like, I'm going to audition for these schools, and if I don't get in, I'll just move back home. And I'm originally from Brazil. So I was just like, you know what? If this doesn't pan out, I'll go back to Brazil and figure something out. But what I did learn from my experience auditioning for those two theater schools was that, especially for my Studio 58 audition, which is a very different kind of audition compared to other places, I realized that acting really was the thing for me. Like I had never felt more like fulfilled and alive and happy and joyful in those like 4 hours that I was there for their audition. So I realized in that moment, I was like, yeah, even if this doesn't work out for me and I go back home, I will do what I can to continue acting, and what is super normal everywhere, but especially in Brazil, because I feel like people don't really respect, or I don't know, it's just like there's very little support for the arts back home. So I just knew, I'm like, well, I'm gonna have a day job like any other person. what I used to do a lot in Brazil, actually, I used to teach English a lot, whether to like businesses or privately. So I was just like, you know what? If nothing works out, if anything, I can always go home, teach English, and then act on the side. And hopefully something one day will work out for me. So I didn't really have a plan, but I always knew that I could do something with all the skills that I learned. Because I also went to business school. So like it's the type of degree that you can kind of like apply to everything. And because I had English skills, at least if I were to go back home to Brazil, I knew that I had something that is super, super important for a country like Brazil. Like here, no one really cares if you can speak English because everyone speaks English, right? But like back home, it was like because I sound fairly like I, don't really have an accent and that kind of stuff.
Right,
Like
yeah.
people would be like, "Oh my gosh, not just like be an English teacher. You can do so much because you know this language." So I knew at least I had like a kind of a safety plan in a way. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, clearly it worked out in your favor because you've done a lot professionally. You've been doing theater, you've been doing film, and then we're going to talk about your journey with coaching and acting expanded. But I wanted to ask a question about your journey with the professional work in seeing, because I know a lot of actors, myself very much included, they kind of go through phases of feeling very insecure about their work. And because it's such an unstable career, a lot of people kind of get into those ruts of, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm terrible at this. I'm not getting auditions. Does that happen to you? And if so, how do you kind of deal with that?
Very, very good point. Very good question. I feel like for everyone who is self-employed, we will always feel that I'm not good enough at some point. Yeah, like regardless of what you're doing, if you're self-employed, if you're not working, you're always in that panic type of mode. But what I'm the kind of person that I can't just like sit on my hands, which is very much how acting expanded happened. But every single time that I feel like I'm not getting enough auditions, I'm actively going out and pursuing it. And so when I was still in theater school, you were not allowed to either get a job or just even audition and go work on other stuff while you're at studio because they just want you to be there for the completely dedicated to the program, which is what conservatory style school is like. So because I was there 10 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, it's kind of hard really for you to do anything else with your time. But during the summers, because we have 4 months off, I would always be looking out for auditions. So if there was ever an opportunity to audition while we were in school, I would do it with the permission of the artistic director, because Catherine Shaw at the time, now it's someone else, it's Courtney Doby, but at the time, yeah, she had to like say whether it was okay for you to audition for things or not. So whenever there was a theater audition that was looking for the students at studio to audition for, I would 100% be like, yes, me, I will go and I will audition for this, even though I'm completely unprepared and green. And then during the summer, I also was like on Vancouver Actors Guide, and the Vancouver Public Library website also has auditions posted on there all the time. So it's all like I would search them and I would audition because I knew that auditioning is a skill, one, which is something that I had to learn while I was in theater school. I didn't know that acting and auditioning are not the same thing. But
my God.
also that I always got so nervous doing any kind of audition. Like because I wasn't an actor before going to theater school. So I was always so terrified and so scared. And I got way too nervous, which meant that I bombed every audition that I went to because I was too nervous. So I knew I had to eventually just like create some callus over that part of myself and just not get nervous. So I actively was always looking for auditions so that I could try to like get that out of my system. And so for the 3 years I was at studio, I was always auditioning for things, which is how eventually I started getting stuff and then had a demo reel and all of that. So by the time I was done studio, I had already had like footage to put in my demo reel. I had enough experience on set to do like the kind of acting and learning that I wanted to do when I had my film classes. So I could specifically ask my film teacher, just being like, hey, this is the kind of feedback that I've gotten when I went to an audition or when I was on set, this happened. And she would be able to, help me. And so I always felt like I was just a little bit, not advanced, but just like I had a little bit more experience than I guess other people at studio that were just doing the schoolwork, because I was actively looking for more experiences beyond what I was getting at school. So by the time I finished studio, I had professional experiences both in theater and in film and TV and commercials, and I was able to find an agent like very quickly. So it all like kind of like helped and worked out in the end. It sounds like very magical, but there was a lot of work on my end that I did to make my career just like I just wanted to not gonna swear, to just like jumpstart immediately. As soon as I put on the cap, like the graduation cap, I was like, okay, here we go. I'm
You're going
fully working actor.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to hear, just how hard is it to work as an actress in the film industry? Because we hear all those stories about starving artists. We hear all those, people who go years without getting a role after going to auditions over and over. So as someone who, has gone through all of that, what have you seen? And I guess just how possible is it to do things successfully? Because, obviously you've been able to book jobs and you've been able to build a career, but what are some of the harder things that you've had to kind of learn to overcome throughout that process?
Great question. I think the hardest thing to do when you're starting out is one, what people like to call rejection, which I don't think is necessarily rejection. They're not actually disliking you personally. It's just that wasn't the right fit for what they were looking for. Most of the times you're not going to book something for something that has nothing to do with you. So really your mindset, you have to change that completely and not think that you are a personal failure because you're not booking anything. And also what was the hardest thing, I think, like 2019 for me was rough, was because I was so panicked that I wasn't gonna have enough money post school, that I somehow found myself working like 3 day jobs on top of what I was doing. And I completely burnt myself out in terms of work because I had a box office job and then I was working at a gym in their maintenance team and then all of these things. And so I think that that's the hardest thing, because acting, and I think this is like the measurement for an actor or any artist, is would you do this if you knew that you were not going to be paid for it for the rest of your life? Like that's how you know whether this is for you. You just have to know that if you don't ever get recognition or monetary value out of this, which we all want, obviously, but like if you don't get it, would you still do it? And for me, the answer was yes. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to depend on it for money. I'm going to go find it somewhere else. And then I think I just like worked myself too much because I had way too many other day jobs. And I think that's the hardest thing, because when you're starting out, you don't have like, it's you have to manage your time so well. You have to still have the passion and the desire to do a really great audition, but not put all of your hopes and dreams onto that. And then you also have to like pay the bills and pay off your student loans and all of those things. And that's just so hard in the beginning because there's all of that, the pressure of doing everything that you possibly can. And then how do you add on top of that, like seeing your friends, being, still like connecting with your family and like being a healthy person who like exercises or cooks for themselves or all of that stuff. It's just, it feels like you never have enough time in the day. And then like for me also, sometimes I've dealt with anxiety and depression, and you're just like, when you're in those periods when you're really depressed and it's just impossible to even, get out of bed and brush your teeth. How do you do it? So there's just so many aspects, I think, that you have to learn to put everything together. And I think that's the biggest challenges in the beginning, when you're just starting to figure out how to be a full adult while you also are trying to be an artist, is a lot.
It's the greatest combination, really. It's like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so that's amazing. I think we've gotten to know a lot about you as an actor and your journey, and you've provided a lot of insight. So thank you for that. I think we can now shift to acting expanded and talking a little bit about your business, because I'll actually tell a little tidbit story. I was actually the person out of me and Jasmine who knew Jessie. I found out about your business through a Facebook post in a random like Toronto actors group on Facebook, and I happened to see that you wrote about how the company came to be and providing the coaching, and then I did a session with you, and I had so much fun, and I loved your personality, and you were so sweet and welcoming. But I found the story that you talked about on how the business came to be really interesting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
For sure. Yeah, I was on tour uh, between February and March of 2020. I was on the Arts Club tour of Kim's Convenience, which was a remount of the show that I had done for Pacific Theater in 2018. And it was, yeah, super exciting until we got cut short by the pandemic. COVID interrupted us at the last 2 weeks, I think, of our tour, which was very rough. And in the beginning, I thought, well, this is great. It's like a vacation, because no one
Right.
thought that the pandemic would last, as long as it did. It's been a full year now.
Yeah.
But I think at the time we thought, it'll be like 3 months. It'll be fine. So I just treated it like a vacation. And then 1 month in, you realize, oh, yeah, this virus isn't really going anywhere.
Yeah.
We were very silly in thinking that. So I thought, well, it's going to for sure be at least 6 months, and I'm not going to be able to work. And most of the things that I do work wise require exposing yourself, right? Like being, if you're working at a cafe or as a server at a restaurant, or what I did before, like box office, working at a gym, like you have to be in there in person. And I was like, I don't think we'll be able to go back to those kinds of jobs for a while as well. So at that point, I think I was about a month in to this, and I realized, wow, I don't think that I'm gonna have any forms of supporting myself at all. So I realize, like, the thing that I really love about acting is just actors and the acting process. And so whether I'm acting or I'm witnessing people doing the work and seeing an actor figure things out is one of the most exciting things there is to observe and witness for me. And I thought maybe one day I could coach or teach or something like that. Not just because I think that I have like a good eye and I'm very kind of like logical, and I can look at things in a very specific, detailed type of way, but also because, like I said, I used to teach before. I had taught English for a couple of years throughout my life, and so I already knew that I liked to teach. Now, English was not the most exciting thing to teach, but I did always enjoy, the whole process of teaching and being with students. And so I always thought that maybe one day, like far down the line, when I've got 5 years of experience and people respect me in the industry, I can start coaching. And then, oh, there's a lot of noise in my neighborhood. And then I connected with one of my personal film coaches. His name's Rogi, and he's just the most amazing person ever. But also, I really look up to him because he's an Asian performer, and not just in theater, but also has found a lot of success in film. And I really loved working with him because it was a different kind of work compared to what I did at Studio 58. And I remember just asking him how he got into coaching, and he just said, honestly, I just did it for fun because I love the acting process. I love seeing actors get it. And I said, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I love acting so much that you wouldn't have to pay me. I would just be there to help people, like with their self-tapes, their auditions, whatever. I'll just be there because I just want to see it happen. And I thought, yeah, well, one day I would love to be a coach. And he was like, well, you can just be a coach now. And I said, well, but I'm so, I don't know, young, or like people are not going to take me seriously and all that stuff. And he was just like, no, if your friends have come to you before for advice or for help or anything like that, that means that you already have enough knowledge that you could impart on other people. So maybe you can't coach someone that has 10 years of experience, but you can coach someone that is younger than you or less experienced than you or even on the same level. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Because every time, like not every time, but like when I was at studio, I used to get a lot of people asking me for feedback. And even after I was finished with school, my friends themselves that have like graduated or not would also get self-tapes, and they would ask me for help, or yeah, I would be the one to be their reader, and I would be able to discuss their scenes with them and help them through that process. And I, unbeknownst to me, was coaching people and not charging them, but I just didn't know that I was already doing it. And yeah, and Rogi really helped me see that that's what coaching is all about. And yeah, it was awesome. And that's how I essentially realized, yeah, I can do this, and how I posted it on Facebook and all those things.
Yeah, so, talking more about Acting Expanded itself in the business, how was that putting everything together? Because, you had that kind of knowledge, you had that experience you didn't know you had to get to Acting Expanded, but clearly setting up that entire business up, and, I mean, you have courses that you've put together and guidance in that way, so it's a lot to kind of put together yourself. So how did that go?
It was a lot of learning on the go. Honestly, it was good that I had all the business skills and the management skills from before, but I had never set up an online course by myself. I had used the Teachable platform as a student. I'm a member of the To Be Magnetic community, which is a neural manifestation school. And I had used their platform and really liked it. And I learned from like research that Teachable offers, like you can build a whole online course for free on it. And I thought, well, why not? Because I already have some experience with this platform and I can do it for free. So I'm just going to try it out. And I just started researching a bunch of resources for entrepreneurs. And I don't think I was the only one, because I think everyone realized throughout the pandemic that the online work is the way to go, because if you ever can't, go physically to work anymore, you gotta figure something out online. So I researched all of that. I found a podcast called Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn, and he essentially just gives you full like tips on how to write emails, how to find more people, where to post, and all of those things. And I also was like taking a bunch of classes, online classes myself, just to keep the acting skills going. And I took one class from Amy Jo Berman. You've probably seen her ads everywhere.
Yes.
And she gives you a full like resource list, like every single possible acting and theater casting group you could imagine on Facebook. She gives you like a list of 250, I don't know how many.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So I just added myself to all of those, and I was like, great, I already have all the groups now. All I have to do is post. And so that's how you like found my post in there. I think the Toronto group was one of those groups. So it was a lot of like learning on the go, honestly. The only thing that I didn't learn which I also did not do well at university, was learning how to build a website. I, to this day, still can't do it. I tried it with Squarespace, it was not successful. So far, I only exist on Teachable. And then eventually I saw on TikTok, as one would, because that's what I did throughout the whole pandemic, was on TikTok. I also learned how to create products and like link it from like on demand services to Etsy. So you could like very easily just create designs. Like if you like to design, which is something that I always enjoy doing, you can just design things on Canva, upload it onto printful.com, and then create just like link it to an Etsy link, and the Etsy link will have all of your products from Printful. And if someone buys it on Etsy, it's like automatically the Printful thing will like create it and ship it for you, and you don't have to do anything. You just have to like set the prices and create the designs. So it seemed like so easy to do. I mean, it's simple, it's not easy, but I was like, I love to design, I'm gonna do this. So like that's how I also came up with all the merchandise for
Right, yeah, because you do have
my
merchandise.
website. Yeah.
Wow.
I guess like you had to do a lot of learning, but I wanted to hear if the business course that you took before going into acting, how much did that end up helping you later on in life? And do you regret taking that at all? Would you have still wanted, that business knowledge? And how much did that contribute to you building your business eventually down the line?
Man, I think I first of all don't regret it at all. I don't think there's anything that I really regret in life, because it all just, led me here. I learned a lot from university, from my management degree, and also from my production diploma at VFS, because all the managerial stuff that you learn, it's all like applicable. It's all essentially human organizational types of skills that you can apply. I learned a lot of project management while I was in uni. And I also learned just like a lot about marketing, a lot about, I had like courses on organizational behavior and how to do well in interviews, like HR type of stuff. And so all of those skills, even though I can't necessarily remember every detail, I know that it all helped me become at least like confident in my own skills, that I could work in a company if necessary. And that I think all just helped me become not so scared of becoming an entrepreneur, which is essentially what I'm doing with all of my like online brands and all those things. Like because I knew social media fairly well and I learned about those businesses, like when it comes down to creating marketing plans or business plans for myself, I don't find that scary at all, because I've learned all of that. Like I learned how to do a lot of SWOT analysis. I learned how to make business plans, marketing plans, project manage, how to delegate, how to like learn how to fix, problems, like all of those crazy things that you learn, that could apply for a giant company like Facebook is something that I could apply for my own company. So I wasn't scared of going through that process, which I think is the most important thing, because I think a lot of artists are like they put themselves in that box of I'm a creative person, and I don't know how to organize or plan, or I don't know how marketing works and all these things, and so they just don't do it. And a lot of people end up stopping themselves from a lot, because they just put themselves in this box. And for me, I just didn't think that I would be limited by it. And so that's how I went about and started doing it. I think the thing about VFS specifically, about learning how to produce, is that you just learn that production really is just about putting your face out there, because it's just going to be rough and everything's going to go wrong. Everything that you plan for is going to go wrong, and even the things you didn't plan for is going to go wrong too. Like that's what you learn with production. So yeah, it just creates like that level of I can keep going regardless of the problems I encounter. And that's really what you need if you ever want to be a business owner of any kind. You just have to be like, yeah, problems are a given. So you just have to learn how to overcome the problems.
God, that's amazing. But I mean, this business is you can tell how much effort you put into it in making it what it is, and it's been very successful. I wanted to ask, it's very much oriented about, like you were kind of mentioning, helping other people. And I know on your social media you even post little videos and things like that, kind of teaching young actors and those little skills, and of course giving them a course that's financially accessible for a lot of people. So why was it so important to you to help other people, I guess, in layman's terms, you could say it, through Acting Expanded?
I think because, well, one, there's the part of if you're not helping other people, then what are you doing with your life, kind of. That I'm just not that kind of person. I wouldn't ever just want to do things for personal gain, even though, of course, I love it when things work out for me. But I think it's just, something that is who I am as a person. I wouldn't ever want to like grow and leave everyone behind. If I'm going to be successful, I would like to bring up everyone along in the journey. But with things like financial issues, just like the way that I price things, or offering coaching services and that kind of stuff, it's mostly because I have been in that position as well. If I had to pay the exorbitant tuition fees that I did for so many years as an international student, I know exactly what that's like, and I'm very lucky that I have a family that supports me. But, like, what if I didn't and I had to figure it out on my own? And life is already, like, hard and stressful. So I just think about the people that would love to learn and take a course or just get a coaching because they just want to do well. And something as, like, it's so weird to say it, but like something as so as silly as a fee, if you can just help someone in any way, that is not, at least like for me, it's it's worth it, in the sense of if I have time and someone needs my help, I don't know why I wouldn't do it. And in the end, also, it always kind of just comes back. And so, for example, I coached you, and now I'm here doing this podcast, so it's like it all kind of just
works.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, because I did a lot of stuff for free as an actor, because demo footage, like all of those things that they offer you, like, I will give you a Subway $10 card, and you're like, great. But you just do it. And then I would say like some of those experiences that I was the least paid or not paid at all are the ones that people remember you the most. And so the directors and the producers from the stuff that I've done years ago, they're to this day will be like, I still remember you. Do you want to be a part of this thing that I'm thinking about now? And like, it's just the things that you get from doing things for free, quote unquote. It comes back in different ways as well.
Well, speaking of helping people for free, we always like to end off with some advice. And since you have had so many different experiences going through the different stages that, I guess a lot of people would want to know more about, what is one piece of, I guess, adulting advice when it comes to the art world? I don't know if I phrased that correctly, but in terms of like, balancing working as an artist, you talked about how it's super difficult to manage, especially in the beginning, and having to do a lot of things even with very low compensation. What is one piece of advice that you would give to younger people who may also want to pursue that type of careers in the future?
There's so much I could say.
Go for it. Just let
Well, the one thing that I always tell, especially for actors or anyone who is an artist or thinking about it or considering it, is one, like, if you weren't ever to get any recognition or monetary compensation for it. Is this something you would want to do? That's a very good way of checking if this is the right career for you, because, man, you could go years without getting any of those things. So you just have to be sure that that's what you want and you're really passionate about it. And the thing that I always tell actors too is to know yourself, because acting is kind of like, yeah, you're a part of a movie and there's casting directors and, you know, agents and managers and all these things, but in the end you really have to know yourself, because when you're acting, it's all you. And yeah, a scene partner helps a lot, but the only thing that really stands in your way is yourself. So if you don't know what is blocking you or what's standing in your way or why you can't do certain things, it's just gonna make your process even harder. So I always tell people, you know, like, some people don't like to watch themselves on screen, on TV, and I'm like, well, you gotta, because you need to know what your face is doing, what your eyes are doing, what your voice is doing, like all of that stuff. All of that, and also just like general information, just for people who are younger, as I'm such an old 30-year-old.
That is not how I intended to. Just because mainly our audience is like most likely in high school, so we're going through that phase of having to like choose our career paths and basically the rest of our lives. So
for me, at least, what I would say to my youngest self is to not be afraid to ask for help, because I don't know, for some reason was very ashamed of feeling like I needed help in any way, because I just wanted to be adult and independent, and I thought that I had to figure everything out on my own. But I feel like, yeah, especially if you don't have the kind of support at home that you wish you would or could have, it's like, just then reach out. The internet is it can be such a scary place, but it can also be so great because you get to connect with some really amazing people. And so don't be afraid to reach out, to ask for help. I think that's super important, and the more you're willing to do that, then yeah, you're just like, I think, yeah, you're helping yourself and you're establishing like a good support system for you, because you really can't go through life by yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, on that note, that was such a sweet note to end on. Thank you so much again, Jessie, for being here and talking all about your experiences, your business. All of Jessie's links are going to be in any description box that you see if you're listening or watching this, including links to Acting Expanded if you are looking to get into acting or maybe want to start and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. So we're going to have all that stuff in the description. And yeah, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I just loved hearing you talk about your experiences and how passionate you are about seeing other people, be successful in acting. Because I think hearing that from an outside perspective as well really tells you that this is what you are meant to do. And I genuinely do mean that, because you just seem so exuberant about it. So thank you for sharing that passion with us, and hopefully some potential actors or playwrights or producers or people who want to get into the arts can learn something from that. So
appreciate all the advice and all the insight. And
yes.
Thank you for having me and for all of those sweet words. That was amazing. And I loved connecting with you too. I hope and pray and wish for you and for everyone listening that it all works out. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to me, I'm very much on my phone all the time. So just message me. I'm around. I will reply.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and you can keep an eye out for another episode very soon. And with that being said, we will see you next time. Bye.